A friend of mine suggested that I do a video to show how I have set up my computers to have no dust inside, and they have almost zero dust. Well, what I do is I filter the air that goes into the computer. I'm sure you've seen these advertised on TV, Swiffer duster cloths. They look like this, kind of a cloth like this. And they're fairly good as far as airflow. You can breathe through them fine. It's not 100% airflow, but it's pretty good. This is what I use to filter the air that goes into my computers, because this is like a dust magnet. It'll catch the dust before it goes into the computer. So let me show you how I have my computers set up. I have my computer set up here. I'm going to be doing the front first because I need a little scrap of filter to cover a blank spot in the top. When I'm ready to do the top, I want to explain one thing first. I'm using little magnets to hold my filters in place. I don't need a lot of holding power because I'm just going to hold the filter. So therefore the little magnets are good enough. These are some strong magnets. They're called super magnets, and they're neodymium disc magnets. I bought these in Home Depot. I'm sure you can get them in a lot of hardware stores. That's what I use for mine. I have to set them up a certain way though so that I can use them easily. I'll explain that when I do the first filter. So let's do the front. I know the whole cloth is a little bit too big for my front application, so I'm going to use a pair of scissors to trim this down a little bit. I'm going to save that piece because I'm going to need it later on, and then trim that. Okay, then my front grille here pops out like so. And then this fits inside. There's a fan, a big fan here that's pulling air into the computer. I'm going to place my filter in there like so. Now what's going to hold that in place? That's my magnets. And what I did was I glued the magnets to a piece of plastic. You've seen plastic that's used in packaging, like this was a diamond sharpener. It has a plastic bubble thing here. I saved something like this and just cut it up to make these little strips of plastic. And then I glued the magnet to one end so that I can fit those up inside, because it's kind of hard to get to those magnets where they go. And that's it. My filter is in place. Put the grill back. That's done. Let's do the top next. Before I put the top filter in place, I want to explain one thing first. Underneath this grill work here, there's a double width radiator because my CPU cooler is a closed loop liquid cool system. No fan inside. There's no hoses to run with a reservoir of liquid. You just buy it already assembled. It's closed. You put one end on the CPU. You attach the radiator to the top of the computer case. It's designed to all work together. It fits perfectly in this case. And then there's two 120 millimeter fans inside pulling air down through the radiator. You do it that way because the air outside the computer is typically cooler than the air inside. Therefore, you want cooler air to cool the liquid in the radiator. These are my Wi-Fi antennas. I just need to get these out of the way momentarily. And then here is a full piece of that Swiffer dusting cloth. It's a little bit shy right here, you can see. These are the magnets that I use on the outside. I wrapped some blue painter's tape on it just to make them easier to lift up, because sometimes it can be hard to get your fingernail underneath there to lift the magnet up. With the tape on there, they're easy to lift up. And earlier I mentioned that I saved a bit of that trim that I cut off. I'm going to put that piece right there, and then where it overlaps, I'll put my two magnets on there, put my Wi-Fi antenna back. That's ready to go. Let's do the back. Just to explain my back fan here again, I have a radiator underneath here because I'm using a Titan X hybrid video card. It comes assembled with its own closed loop water cool system. Okay, so there's a radiator in here, and again the air is being drawn in from the outside. So I'm going to put my filter on there, and again with my little magnets, hold it in place. I've got a steel case, so the magnets work fine. If you have an all aluminum case, you're going to have to probably use double-sided tape, but you can do that. One more thing to do, and that's the bottom filter. My computer has a little drawer here that's got a bottom filter screen in it that works decent but not very well. So I cut a little piece of Swiffer cloth to fit in there. I don't need to hold this in with magnets because there's a grill on the bottom of my case that'll hold everything in place. I just need to slide this in like so, and that's the air that goes in to keep the power supply unit cool. Now you'll notice all my fans are pulling air into the computer. You don't have to worry about the thing inflating and popping like a balloon. There's all kinds of vents all over the place where the air can get out. The important thing is to bring in cool air through the radiators to keep that cool. All right, let's talk about temperatures. Now, an important consideration, of course, is temperature inside, because as these filters get clogged with dust, less air is going to move in and the temperature is going to increase inside your computer. I have right here a panel. It's not lit up, obviously, because my computer isn't turned on, but it's a temperature panel. There are 4 probes inside my computer. One is taped to the top of the case. There's one on a hard disk, one on the CPU, and one on the video card. And this will tell me what the temperature of each of those is. My video card is supposedly good up to 90 degrees Celsius. That's very high considering that 100 degrees Celsius is the boiling point of water. I have my monitor here set to sound an alarm if the VGA card, the video card, gets up to 70 degrees Celsius. It rarely ever does. What happens on a really warm day when my computer filters are clogged, then I might start getting a warning. I pull the side case off like this, let it cool down quickly, and while it's cooling down, I change all my filters. Another feature that I want to mention about my computers is that because I have a Corsair case and a Corsair CPU cooler, I went on to the Corsair website and I downloaded their Corsair app. It's a little application that when open it displays all the internal temperatures, anything it has access to of my computer. So when I'm doing some video intensive work like editing and encoding my cooking videos for YouTube, I can monitor the temperatures to make sure that everything is staying at safe levels. And if you're wondering why I'm doing this in my kitchen, it's because this is where I'm set up with all kinds of lighting to do cooking videos. This is like a TV studio, my kitchen. How well does my filter system work? For comparison, this is a clean filter, fresh out of the box. This is a filter from off the top of my computer. Look at the dust that's in there. This is a filter from the back, and this is a filter from the front. You can see how much dust is being captured, and this is after about 4 weeks. I try to change my filters on the 1st of every month. As another demonstration of how well these filters work, I want to show you some photographs of the insides of one of my computers. I built these computers nearly a year ago. They have not been cleaned. As you can see from the inside, there's virtually no dust in there. There are a few specks because my office is kind of dusty. There's a window fan that's running constantly. It's pulling in dust from the outside. If the computer isn't on, forcing air out of the computer, then some air with dust in it can get inside the computer. I've looked at computers that I've built in the past after I've run them for a year or two, and all the fans are coated with a light brown fuzz of dust. They look awful. My computer now is looking beautiful inside. I think I have finally solved my dust problem. And finally, because it's necessary, a disclaimer. I will not be held accountable for any damage you might cause to your computer if you set it up with filters. I mean, if you're going to do filters, make sure you have a way of monitoring the internal temperature of your computer. Like that panel that I have on the front of my computer. I bought that on Amazon and it wasn't expensive. At the very least, get a digital thermometer with a probe that you can put inside the computer and have the digital readout on the outside, so you can at least monitor what the internal temperatures are, because as those filters clog with dust, it's going to diminish the airflow. In my case, as I mentioned, I have to replace those filters at the beginning of every month. Sometimes the alarm does go off on my computer when it gets to be too high, too hot inside. It's because I forgot to change my filters. So just be aware that there are some risks involved. But for me anyways, I think these filters work perfectly and they solve the problem that I've had with dust.